of coupling and duos in film and television, and some people like to mention Bonnie and Clyde. Some people mention Catwoman and Batman, Lois Lane and Clark Kent. Even though they're all different dynamics, Bonnie and Clyde and Batman is not on the same side. They all represent having a relationship with someone who complements what your purpose is. I mean, maybe Bonnie and Clyde could have been ministers, but they were bank robbers, and they helped each other rob banks. I'm not saying doing that. I'm discouraging that. But what I'm saying is that you have to look for someone who's going to help you reach the person that you have become and make you better and stronger. And I've seen the opposite. I've grown up, I'm in my 30s, and I've seen people get married to people and they completely changed the person before they got married, and the person is no longer, it's like they've been lobotomized from who they were. And it's more like the other person wanted to get married, and then their spouse was dragged along, and it's more of that other person's goal, and not both of them together. It's more one person wanted something out of the relationship, and that's what happened. And I think that's too bad, because I think you are missing out if you're not, partners in this relationship.
Yeah, it was kind of like what we were saying previously. It's just accepting that person as they are. And yeah, before you commit to someone and decide to be intentional, you have to accept them as they are. You shouldn't force them to be something that they're not, because all you're doing is marrying someone who is not them, and eventually they're going to be unhappy and resentful, and it's going to destroy the union essentially.
I also wanted to concur with the point that you brought up about looking for someone who brings out the best in you instead of the worst in you. I think I saw a meme on Instagram where it was saying, just because someone is pursuing you doesn't mean that, that they are the best for you. Sometimes you have to connect with that which you want to be, and not which you even not what you are, or even what you were. And I'm going to say not even what you are, because sometimes we connect. There's this thing called trauma bonding, where it's like you have gone through some things, you've gone through some hurt, and so you connect with the person because they are on that same level of pain with you, or that same level of hurt. And if that's not where you plan to be for the rest of your life, that's not a good place to go looking for someone, And so I think definitely we want to not only be cognizant of where am I right now, but where am I trying to go, and then seeing if that person fits, it is on the same track with you.
Right. And also, Gracious, all this reminds me of the old term for marriage from way back when, the ball and chain, which is basically what I was talking about. It's just, hey, I'm forced to get married to someone who I kind of like, whatever, and my life is on hold while their life is still going, but they're my ball and chain, so they're dragging me down, they're weighing me down. But that's not how marriage should be, I don't think.
No, and I have a new proverb. It's an African proverb. We've probably all heard of it, but if you want to go fast, go along. But if you want to go together, if you want to go far, go together. And that's kind of what I quote to people about marriage, is that's really how you should think about it. Relationship goals, as we talked about earlier, it's really building, like you all said, complementing. When you think about, what, if I was single, could I have gotten this far? Or would I have made this decision if I didn't have somebody else giving that godly wise counsel are also praying for me and on my team.
Can you continue just explaining a little bit more about that? Like what makes a good relationship? How would you define like that I made a good match, that works, you know, and like seeing longevity in that relationship?
Yeah, no, that's great. Great question. And I think we kind of touched on a little bit about do we complement each other? Are we bringing out the best in each other? And also, are we challenging each other to grow and do better? One thing I love to see is, you know, like say, for instance, one of my friends, I hooked someone up with someone who didn't really exercise. But that person, they started going on walks together, and the other person started becoming a healthier lifestyle. And I think that's just a simple example of having this positive influence in your life. It's not, like I said, it's not something that you're changing this person, or you're not fundamentally saying, oh, you're lazy or anything like that. But hey, you know, I want to encourage you to be a better version of yourself. And now that you're healthier, we can go for longer walks, and we're making better overall lifestyle decisions. Also the same about one of my friends I talked to. She's been really stressed lately at work. And so one of the matches I'm trying to make with her is someone who, you know, understands what it's like to have a stressful job, but also that companionship to where she can talk about those things. So again, companionship, making sure that this is someone who, at the end of the day, when you go home to, you're excited to talk with them on the phone. You're both able to share, and there's no judgment. So those are a few of those things where I'm thinking, you know, that I look like, okay, good match, good relationship.
You know, two couples that I look at fondly that are in the public eye are, and they don't agree politically, but the Bushes and the Obamas. If you look at both their stories, they're both about men who had aspirations to become president. I'm talking about George W. Bush and Barack Obama. They both want to be president. They both married very intelligent women, and both women, they did not leave behind their intelligence when helping their husband become president, because both Mrs. Bush and Mrs. Obama have been known to encourage their husbands and to help them along when they screw up.
I think that there's a lot out there within the church that kind of tells women, you have to be silent, you have to throw away what you're called to do, and it's all about your husband, when really it should be together. You guys are doing this together, you know, versus it just being all about one person. You're supposed to support one another, you know. So I think that that's really good. Those are really good examples, because like I said, within the church, there's a lot of that where it's, you know, you have to be quiet, you need to be at home. There's still a lot of that going on, and you have to have your children, and, you know, whatever you did before, that was what you did before. So versus, you know, you two go in there serving together, you know, really pushing and encouraging each other.
And that reminded me of something. Like, now we're talking about church, that as a church, someone who's in young adult ministry for 7 years, going on 7 years now, I definitely get a lot of people, and I've experienced a lot of this, like the church matchmaking, and I haven't met anyone that likes it, because it's one of those deals where it's like, you're single, they're single, just get it over with. And then you ask for what you're looking for in a spouse, and then you just say it, and it's not like unrealistic, but they're like, well, that's why you're still single. It's like you actually want to benefit from the relationship. And it's almost like this. I've witnessed, like, there's this almost in the Christian world, let's match make the good person with the person that needs to come to Jesus. No, that doesn't work. That's a train wreck waiting to happen. And but I kind of see that, and that's turned me off of matchmaking. So Brooke, help get, and there's a lot of people out there that don't like that. So when I hear the word matchmaking, I think of the person in church that they just are so desperate to get you married off that they will literally get you married off to the next single person that walks through the doors, regardless of if they're in any way compatible. I mean, in any way. And so I think that turns a lot of people off in relationships. I think that's why a lot of people just are leery of matchmaking and leery of actually, and a lot of people don't think they can have anything good in life because they've been told, well, you're not going to get what you're looking for, so just settle. And settle means just go with anybody that you see. Like Reg said, that ball and chain thing. Like, just get it over with. Like, I think that's a bad perspective. So maybe you can give some people hope out there that need it.
Absolutely, Matthew. Thank you for that. One of the big things about my process is it is all about you. So you don't have to worry about your church elders or your aunts, your siblings, or your mom or dad getting into this process. It's about you. I'm not talking to them. Of course, I ask you questions about what your relationships are, but I don't want to hear from them. I want to hear from you as a person, what your preferences are, what's your lifestyle, because at the end of the day, you're the person that's going to have to live with this. You're the person who's going to make that ultimate decision and commitment. And so that's one of the demystifying those myths. So thank you for that, Matthew. Another part of, the matchmaking game is we talked about these realistic expectations, and, sometimes it is a thin line, but I want to make sure that my people are also not settling. When it comes to your core standards, like, are they a Christian? No, don't compromise on that. Do they treat you right? Are they going to be honest and truthful? Do they have integrity? So those, I take those core standards and those core desires, and I say, let's not compromise on those, because those are going to make or break your relationship. And at the end of the day, you want to live and be with someone who is going to treat you right and treat you like a child of God.
Brooke, quick question. Could you give us some insight on people with cold feet, people who decide, I would like to be in a relationship, I have all I need to be in a relationship, but I'm scared to get into a relationship? How would you deal with those people?
Yeah, so really and truly doing some introspective and some exercises to understand why. I pull back some layers, and a lot of times what I find is there's probably some hurt under there. These are probably someone who's may have been in a relationship, been in a committed relationship, and they've been hurt a time or two. And those things, it could be very hard to heal from past hurt, especially in relationships, because being in a relationship requires you to be vulnerable. And when you're vulnerable and someone, hurts you, or they know that, your biggest fear is for someone to potentially cheat on you, it's hard to get over that. So I really take time to kind of dig up and see where that cold feet is coming from. And then we talk about, like, are you open, and are you going to be open to a relationship? One of the biggest things with dating and dating intentionally is you have to be open to love. So yes, of course, I don't say put your guard down on the first or second date. But you also have to be open. And if you don't feel like you can be open and you can take people at face value, then let's do some more work. And that's another important piece of it. When you're starting to date someone new, as a matchmaker, I vet someone before I introduce you to them, but I want you to go in taking what that person is saying at face value and not thinking that they have any ill intent up front.
So on the other side of the coin of settling, what about accepting imperfections?
Yeah, so then one of the things we discuss is your deal breakers. So I want people to think about what are some imperfections that you, or maybe not even imperfections, but also maybe some bad habits that that you can't deal with. So one of those things might be someone who's a smoker. Is that something that you can compromise on? If not, okay. But when I think about an imperfection, I brought up that family example. So let's say someone may be estranged from their family. And there could be several different reasons for that. Some people may say, oh, well, I have a great relationship with my family, so I need them to have a great relationship with their family as well. That might be something I want someone to think about. Okay, what if I find you a good match that, they may hit all these other things, y'all match on these core values, but you're looking at the fact that they may not have the best relationship with their mom or dad for whatever reason as an imperfection. I still probably encourage you to meet that person. So I push on those little imperfections and again, try to get deep down to why does this matter? And sometimes people have a good reason, and that's perfectly fine. But I like to push on those.
That's great. That's great because I think that also relating to the dating apps or just Facebook and Instagram in general, people like to get a full summary of a person. And once they have that, almost like look in the back of a DVD, once they have a full summary, because sometimes you look at the MPAA rating, oh,
Right.
it has questionable content for this, and that. Then if you have, if the person maybe swears occasionally, maybe the
Yep.
person is, not the fastest runner or whatever. I don't know. I'm just throwing the spitballing. But there's something that is not really a deal breaker, even for the person who's saying it's a deal breaker. They're just saying it because as soon as they do something I don't like, I'm out.
Yeah. And honestly, Reggie, thinking about those dating profiles that you mentioned, sometimes more information can do more harm than good. Because we are going through and you may see, to your point, that this person may curse. Or I know a big dating profile question is, of course, I mentioned the smoking, but also the drinking occasionally. You know, someone may say, I don't want someone who drinks at all. Okay, but they see that they may drink occasionally, and because they've seen that, they may skip over their profile, but it may have been a really good match for you. And when they say occasionally, maybe they meant I only drink on a special occasion, like when for the holidays or when I got a promotion. So you have to also think about that information. And, you know, sometimes when we do so much research on someone, we've already talked ourselves out of being interested in that person because of what we've seen online.
I was gonna ask a question too. What about interracial dating? Like I see a lot of women, and I'll be honest, I'll kind of throw us a little under the bus. I see a lot of Black women. They're like, I'm gonna marry a Black man, and he's got to have like a degree and everything, and he's got to be perfect. Got to have that, Morris Chestnut looks, Idris Elba, and love Jesus, and all the above, and drive a Mercedes. So, how do you feel about like that people that only want to date a certain race?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I always push for people to be open to dating other races. I think when we go back to, I talked about that dating pool. The dating pool is already small for women. So I want them to think about, you know what if there is a guy out there from a different race, he hits all of your preferences, y'all matching these core values, would you really not date him? So I really encourage people to be open. And I think not that you have to end up and marry someone who isn't your race preference, but I think just being open into meeting people that may be different, you broaden your horizons. So I always encourage it. Now, with dating interracially, you also kind of have to be aware of some of the things that could come with that. They may not understand some of your background or some of your cultural differences. But I just really encourage people to be open because I think you could be missing out if you're only subjecting yourself to one small group.
In the climate
Right.
we're in this nation, do you feel like people are more open or less open to interracial relationships? Because I've seen in the past 5 to 6 years, I've seen a lot of interracial relationships. I don't know, is the current climate kind of like reducing that, or are more and more people like open for that? And then if so, like how do you have those discussions?
Yeah, y'all are asking some great questions. I'm going to throw that out there. I love these. But no, that's a good point. To your point, Matthew, I think, I know for a fact, interracial dating, the numbers have been going up. More people are open to it. With today's climate, though, I think one thing I know, at least for particularly Black people that I've been talking to, they want to see where do you stand on issues like Black Lives Matter? Where do you stand on issues like, police brutality? And so when you think about interracial dating today, you do have to take into effect the current climate, because these are things that are going to come up. Every time you open a social media app, you're seeing something about race or about people getting discriminated against or prejudice or some type of injustice. So it is something you have to talk about. And I think interracial couples have to be very brave, because not only are they already going to have these tension and conversations between the two, but anytime they go out in public or on a public stage, they're getting stared at, even within their own families or communities. They may have to defend or explain why they chose to be with this person and maybe not someone who looked like them. So I think the pressure is on, but if you're up for it and if you two are going to work together, I think there's really can be a beautiful interracial relationship. You just have to both be brave and open.